Hello, World Wide Web. Today we will be covering the final level of integration in interpersonal neurobiology, level number 9, transpirational integration. So like all levels of integration, the ninth is a composite of the previous levels of integration. The sum, however, being greater than the parts. So transpirational integration is mostly a composite of the two levels prior to this, and that is temporal integration, also known as existential integration, and interpersonal integration. These are the two main pillars of transpirational integration. So as people gain greater insight and understanding into themselves, they begin to have similar insight into other people and their difficulties and struggles. So this is the interpersonal dimension of it. So interpersonal integration leads to better relationships, more empathy in general. And similarly, as individuals begin to meaningfully look at their own feelings and their own thoughts around death, meaning, meaninglessness, and significance, they begin to understand their place in a greater chronological and even cosmological scale. So this is more of the existential integration that we mentioned. So both of these elements lead to transpirational integration, which is understanding an action that begins with the individual but is inseparable from the complex web of people, systems, and places that constitute our reality. So individuals at this stage of development understand that caring for themselves is just the same as caring for others and vice versa. There's less of a solid boundary between ourselves and others in a very positive way. And individuals at this stage may start making efforts into really improving their families, their communities, making an effort to reduce their negative impact on the world and others in general. So insightful compassion is the hallmark of this stage of development. And for many people, it's quite a relief to let go of the fixed idea of self, to transcend the idea of self, and all of the associated pain and attachment that go with living a self-centered life. So when we think of this level of integration in depression, it may be helpful to think of depression as a distortion in consciousness. And what I mean by that is an over-identification with the self and how our self or our self will exist in the future. It can't go on like this. Life will certainly be full of pain. Why bother? These are sort of typical thoughts of depression, and they're also very much rooted in a fixed idea of self and a static idea of self that will remain the same, and that everything around us that's making us feel this way at this moment will also remain the same, which is just simply not true. But when you're in depression, your thinking is distorted. So transpirational integration, again, it moves beyond the obsession with the self. But the only way you move beyond the identification of the self is fully understanding yourself first, right? So there's no shortcut to transpirational integration. It's a sort of a paradox that living in happiness beyond yourself takes a very long journey through all the muck of the self. The best way out is through. So this is if anybody's had an experience with Buddhism and this idea of nirvana as a sort of selfless state, or a bodhisattva, somebody that has reached enlightenment but has come back into the community to serve others, this is sort of the same idea as transpirational integration. So that's going to do it for this week, and that's going to do it for this whole series on interpersonal neurobiology and depression. I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope you have a better sense of the 9 levels of integration. And if you want to learn more on this topic, I recommend checking out the writings of Daniel Siegel or Louis Cozolino or Bonnie Badenoch. Any of those 3 authors is a great way to spend your time and to learn more about interpersonal neurobiology. All right, take care.